Did you know a thread thinner than a human hair could stop a speeding car in its tracks? A thread so strong, it could hold incredible weight, yet flexible enough to stretch like elastic. And it's not science fiction, it's real. It's called spider silk. Now imagine Spiderman swinging through the city, his webs holding him in midair. Sounds impossible, right? But what if I told you scientists are discovering ways to make webs almost that strong in real life? Spider silk is one of nature's most incredible materials. Stronger than steel, the same thickness, lighter than aluminum, and elastic enough to stretch multiple times its length without snapping. Scientists have studied it for decades, trying to understand its microscopic magic. And now, a tiny molecular trick has been discovered that could make this silk almost unbreakable. We're talking about threads that could revolutionize everything. Ropes that never snap, clothing that never tears, medical sutures that move with your body, and maybe even webbing strong enough to swing between skyscrapers, just like Spider-Man. And all of this comes from one of the smallest engineers in the world, the spider. So how does this tiny molecular trick work? How does spider silk go from delicate threads to one of the strongest materials on the planet? In the next few minutes, we'll uncover the secret science, the incredible experiments, and what this could mean for future materials, and maybe even superheroes. Stay tuned. Humans have been fascinated by spider silk for centuries. Ancient civilizations admired it for its beauty and strength. Poets compared it to the finest thread. Artists tried to capture its delicate perfection, and inventors dreamed of harnessing its power. But it wasn't until the 20th century that scientists began to understand just how remarkable it truly is. Spider silk is far from ordinary. A strand just a fraction of a millimeter thick can absorb energy far greater than the same thickness of steel. Its combination of strength, elasticity, and toughness is unmatched in the natural world. At the heart of its power are proteins called spidroins. These proteins self-organize into tiny crystalline structures connected by flexible chains, almost like a microscopic trampoline network. The crystals give the silk strength, and the chains allow it to stretch without breaking. It's a perfect balance of resilience and flexibility, something humans have struggled to replicate until now. Scientists recently discovered that by making a tiny adjustment at the molecular level, they can significantly increase the silk's tensile strength. Essentially, they are teaching the proteins to link together more efficiently, distributing stress across the fiber. The result? Spider silk that is nearly unbreakable. Imagine ropes that never fray, sutures that move with your body, or threads that could literally hold massive weight. And for Spider-Man fans, webbing that could actually let you swing through the city. Of course, we're not exactly ready to strap web shooters to our wrists, but this research opens the door to a future where materials once thought impossible could exist, stronger than steel, lighter than aluminum, and flexible enough to bend the rules of physics. Over the next few minutes, we'll dive deep into the science, the experiments, and the astonishing potential of this super strong silk. And yes, we'll even imagine what it would be like if Spider-Man's webbing could leap off the page and into reality. Imagine a thread so strong, it could catch a speeding car mid-fall. So flexible, it could stretch like a trampoline. So light, it floats in the wind as if it weren't even there. And yet, it's spun by one of the tiniest creatures on our planet. A creature most of us overlook, or maybe even fear. Yes, we're talking about spiders. But not just any spider. These are master engineers, miniature architects, capable of spinning silk with properties that leave human technology in the dust. For centuries, people have marveled at spider silk. Poets have written about it. Scientists have tried to recreate it. And now, thanks to a tiny molecular trick, we're learning how to make spider silk almost unbreakable. And if you've ever dreamed of swinging between skyscrapers like Spider-Man, this might be the closest glimpse of that reality we've ever had. Stick with me, because today's story isn't just about silk. It's about science, imagination, and the kind of tiny secrets that could change the world. Spider silk is one of nature's most remarkable materials. Stronger than steel of the same thickness, lighter than aluminum, and stretchy enough to absorb impacts that would shatter most man-made materials. How do spiders do this? At the heart of spider silk are proteins called spidroins. They self-organize at the microscopic level into tiny crystalline structures held together by elastic chains. Imagine a microscopic trampoline, where the springs give bounce and the latticework gives strength. Even more fascinating, each type of silk a spider produces has a different function. Some are sticky for catching prey, some are tough for structural support, and some are soft and silky for wrapping eggs. And yet, for all this natural brilliance, there's one limitation. Even the strongest silk can still break under enough tension. But that limitation is changing. Scientists have discovered a molecular trick, a tiny adjustment at the level of individual protein chains, that turns this already incredible material into something almost indestructible. And it's that trick that opens the door to possibilities we could only imagine in comic books. And yes, webbing for swinging between skyscrapers. Don't worry, I'll get there. Now, let's swing into imagination. Spider-Man, a hero whose webbing is strong enough to stop criminals, swing across skyscrapers, and even catch falling objects. In reality, Peter Parker would need webbing that's lightweight, sticky, and nearly indestructible. With this molecular trick, we can actually imagine webbing that could do all of that and more. Picture it. Strands that stretch like rubber, yet rebound like steel. Threads that can absorb immense force, whether stopping a fall, holding a vehicle, or tethering yourself to a building. And unlike fictional web shooters that run out of fluid in a couple of seconds, this silk could theoretically last for hours or even days without losing strength. Of course, we're not ready to strap on web shooters and swing through New York just yet, but science is giving us a peek at what could be possible. And it's exhilarating to imagine a world where we can take inspiration from these tiny eight-legged engineers. And let's be honest, who wouldn't want to feel like Spider-Man, even for just a few seconds? But let's step out of the comic book universe for a moment. This isn't just about swinging from buildings. The implications of this molecular trick are massive. Bulletproof vests could become lighter and more flexible, giving first responders more agility without sacrificing safety. Bridges and cables could absorb forces from earthquakes or heavy loads without cracking. Medical sutures could flex with your movements, healing wounds more naturally. Climbing ropes, parachutes, and safety nets could all reach levels of reliability we never imagined. Visual. Scientists testing silk fibers, medics using sutures, engineers examining ropes and futuristic structures. All this because of a tiny tweak at the molecular level. A microscopic adjustment that changes the strength of something thinner than a human hair. It's a perfect example of biomimicry, learning from nature's most elegant designs, improving them, and applying them to real-world challenges. In this case, a spider's web might save lives, strengthen structures, and push human innovation forward. And now, back to our superhero. Every time Spider-Man swings through the city, he's relying on something we can now almost replicate in the lab. Spider silk, refined by molecular tricks, could make wearable materials that are stronger, lighter, and more flexible than anything we've ever produced. Fabrics that don't tear, ropes that bend but never break, cables that hold incredible weight. Visual, futuristic city skyline, glowing silk-based bridges, people testing climbing gear made of synthetic silk. This isn't fantasy. It's a glimpse of what could be possible when human ingenuity meets nature's design. And it reminds us that sometimes the tiniest creatures hold the biggest secrets. Every spider spinning its web is performing an act of engineering we're only beginning to understand. And each experiment in the lab brings us closer to turning fantasy into reality. So next time you see a spider quietly spinning its web, remember, in that delicate silk lies a secret almost unbreakable, a secret engineered over millions of years, now being refined by human hands. Maybe one day, the line between superhero fantasy and reality will blur. Maybe we'll all get to swing from the threads of innovation. Spider silk isn't just a material. It's a story of nature, science, and imagination woven together, just like a perfect web.